We always prioritize physical health. We rarely prioritize proactive mental health. We're in our thinking so often that we don't even realize it. Neuroscience estimates we're in the present moment 5% of the time. Mindfulness is starting to see your thoughts and your experience and your feelings from a third person point of view. I have this knot that pops right out of my shoulder blade. If I don't address that and take some time, it goes up into my neck and then I get a headache. The stress line that we can practice catching ourselves earlier on, we're not necessarily feeling the world around us, we're feeling what we're thinking about the world around us.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now, let's get it started. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I'm going to be your host as usual. And in the studio, we have Tracey Gazel. Tracey, how are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm good, thanks.
Good. This is one of those times of year. It's what month is this? It's June, and we've got heat waves, going around the what are we in a continent? Where are you, Tracey?
I'm in Canada. I'm up near Vancouver. So we do get hot up here as well. A lot of people don't know that, but we do get hot in Canada. So we've got the heat waves too.
Yeah, I was looking at the heat wave map the other day, and I was just like, oh, and I don't think you guys have like air conditionings like to the level that we have. How does that work?
We make it work. Some people have the full air conditioning. Some of us have the window shakers, but we make it work. Yeah.
That's awesome. Folks, before we get started, if you haven't done it already, and I hope you have, but if you haven't done it already, I would love it if you would like and subscribe, hit the bell so you get updates every time we drop a new episode. So without further ado, Tracey, let's get started. Why don't you let us know a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do?
Yeah. So hi, everyone. I'm Tracey Gazel. I'm an executive coach. I'm a consultant. I'm a speaker, and I'm an author. And I love helping driven high achievers with mental clarity and calm composure, especially in high pressure environments. So I work one-on-one with others, and I also work with businesses and teams to help them hone those soft leadership skills, but they're really not. Soft is kind of a misleading term because soft almost implies a weakness, but
Yeah.
to me, they're essential and they help everyone thrive. And especially these days with so much happening in the world, so much pressure, so much turmoil, the more you can let all of that roll off your back and still have focus, clarity, and calm composure, the better you're going to come out on the other side.
Yeah, that's gold. It's like you said, I mean, with everything happening, it's just like, those
Yeah.
tools you must be teaching people. How did you get into this?
Yeah, great question. Well, it's because I myself am this high achiever driven perfectionist type person. I've always been that way to my detriment. So I've had some run-ins with stress throughout my life. One time, 20 years ago, I broke out in tiny red sores on my whole body from head to toe from stress.
Oy.
That's when I was taking my psychology degree. And that's the first time that I dabbled into meditation to see if that could be a means to help me with how intense I was feeling anxiety and stress and worry most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first thing that helped me. That was the first time I had a teacher talk me how to go inside and access that calm center that we all have inside of us. So I took that with me and then just kept going full speed and worked in corporate healthcare for 10 years and always planned to stay there. It was okay. It was all right. In Canada, it's a government job. It was considered a great corporate position to have. But then 10 years ago, my dad passed away from a terminal neurodegenerative disease called multiple systems atrophy. And that was really hard, of course, watching him go through that, watching him pass away. We were very close. And I had this realization after he passed, he didn't make it to his retirement. And so suddenly the rest of my life, it just felt like a gift. He's not here. I'm still here. And what do I really want to do with the rest of my life? And what I wanted to do was take a chance at creating my dream business and helping more people who are these driven high achievers like me, helping them access that inner space of calm, clarity, focus, composure, so that they can feel better as they continue to go forward and achieve these high, lofty goals that we all have.
Yeah.
So that was 10 years ago, and I've been building my business ever since. I started out as a meditation teacher, but I grew into a coach, and then executive coaching, and then neuroscience and mindfulness coaching. So now working with senior leaders with those exact skills, helping them with mental clarity, calm composure. And my point is that I talk about these things not because it comes naturally to me at all,
Uh,
but because they're skills that I've had to learn for myself. And when I find those amazing sweet spots that help, I love turning around and helping others develop those skills too.
so if I understand correctly, what you said is you had a problem, you experimented on yourself and
Yeah,
figured out what works and selling it to other people, right?
right. I'm patient zero. I'm not this natural calm person, but I found these amazing tools that help with all those things.
I want to hear. I want to hear about them. You know, the one thing that always pops up. I don't really know the difference like between like mindfulness and meditation or how they're related. What is that?
Yeah. So mindfulness is starting to see your thoughts and your experience and your feelings from a third person point of view. So rather than being swept away in anger or frustration or stress, it's noticing, oh, I'm feeling frustrated today. Or, oh, I have tension in my shoulders today. And so it's starting to create a bit of separation from that experience. So
Yeah.
noticing that you're observing it versus being swept away in it. Meditation is sitting in a space with a quiet mind. However, many people try meditation and say it doesn't work for me, I can't do it, my mind's too busy. And that's everyone, that we're humans. Neuroscience says that we think from 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day. So when you try to meditate, it's not about completely turning the tap off on those thoughts, because let's be honest, that's impossible. They can start to slow down over time, but unfortunately, there's no off switch. I wish there was that I could share. It's about learning to change your relationship with your thoughts. So meditation is finding the calm center inside that is also observing your thoughts. So it's related to mindfulness in that way. So it's slipping into the space of the observer. So maybe you have a lot of thinking still happening, but you're noticing it. Again, you're not getting swept away in it.
I was, what I didn't expect you to say was, you noticed the tension in your shoulder. You know, it's like one thing to, I do this thing with myself. I'm just like, oh, I'm angry or I'm feeling something. You know, I've started doing this thing instead of just like immediately going to, I'm feeling, angry or blah, blah, blah. I'm going, how am I feeling and why am I feeling that way? Is that is that mindfulness? Is that what that is?
Yeah, yep. It's starting to take a step back, which is where all your power is in the awareness.
Uh huh.
So it starts with a pause, pausing to even notice your experience, right? So many of us are just swept away, angry, stressed, frustrated. But like you said, pausing and then noticing that tension, that's what it's all about. And there's even neuroscience to back that up. Like I love sharing with my clients about the neuroscience of triggers.
Uh
Because all of us get triggered, right? Back in the day, triggering situations were a caveman being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, right? And
huh.
the caveman's running for his life, trying to survive. So the saber-toothed tiger is the trigger. It cues the brain to go into fight or flight so we can survive, right? That's
Yeah.
the old school way. Today, we're not running from saber-toothed tigers. We're sitting in the boardroom or we're sitting on calls with clients or even we're with our family and we're being triggered up and
Yeah.
down. Our brains still react in the same way as if we're a caveman being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. We get triggered and we go into fight or flight. But what neuroscience shows us is if we take a moment to pause and notice, oh, I'm getting, like some of my clients call it getting fired up or getting frustrated or tension rising or blood pressure rising, just noticing that and then labeling it as that third person point of view. Oh, I'm getting frustrated. That actually sends the activity in the brain away from the fight or flight response to the prefrontal cortex, which is slow rational thinking. So I love talking about meditation and philosophy and neuroscience because it's so interesting. They say the same things in different ways, and you can back
Yeah.
it up from both directions. But it's all about the pause and noticing, as you said, for when you have tension. That's the first step.
I didn't think about it from the physical side of things. It's like sometimes I've noticed like back pain or something like that, or soreness, and it's like you kind of address that with rest or whatever. But it sounds like you're saying that it could be a deeper issue.
Yeah, I see it as this stress slide. I call it a stress slide. So it starts with subtle hints, and it's often physiological cues. And I work with a lot of men, mostly men. And so for them, it's more difficult to label the emotion that they're feeling. It's more difficult to notice frustrated or angry or upset. It's all about the physiological cues. So I talk to them about noticing tension in the body and how that shows up for them. If it's tension in the shoulders or the jaw or the fists, and then noticing if they don't catch it there, how does it progress? So for
Yeah.
example, for me, I have this knot that pops right out of my very specific spot in my shoulder blade. It just like pops out like
Oh,
that.
wow.
And if I don't address that and slow down and take some time, it goes up into my neck and then I get a headache and it just kind of gets worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
But it is this stress slide that we can practice catching ourselves earlier on. And really, all of those points are a tap on the shoulder. Like one of my mentors says, stress is your best friend because it reminds you to come back. It's your body reminding you, oh, you're out of your center. You've strayed. It's a gentle reminder to come back and recenter yourself.
Wow, wow. I never thought of it like that. It's like so often, as an entrepreneur, there are so many unknowns, things that happen. It's just like, okay, well, just stress is just part of what we do, and we just roll with it. There was a guy on the show a couple weeks ago, Jake Lawson. He was talking about the fact that he uses stress as a motivator. So he gets stressed and he just starts like just going harder and harder. It's his, kind of fight or flight response. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, so that reminds me of flow state, right? So that's
Okay.
positive psychology. You know the feeling of being in the flow when you're working, right? When
Yep.
you're challenged, you love what you do. We're entrepreneurs, we love what we do. And when you're just in the zone, right? It's like time melts away and you're just loving what you're doing and you're just so focused, right? That's
Hmm.
called flow state. And part of flow state is having the right amount of challenge. And you can call it stress, I guess, but the right amount of challenge to overcome
Hmm.
that keeps you really focused and interested. So to me, that makes sense. Like a challenge you're working on. But in terms of stress can mean so many different things. So it can
Yeah.
mean a challenge, or for some people, it means crushing burnout, right? So yeah, I mean, I'd like to have a conversation with him. I think we'd have an interesting chat. It can be a motivator as long as it's not crushing and waking you up at night and taking you away from your family kind of thing. That's when it starts to become a detriment, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. You mentioned burnout. I just came through a phase of that. I was fit to be tied. I wasn't that terrible. But how do people? I mean, people get into it, and I guess the question is twofold. How do people, kind of slide into it? What are like some of those indicators? And then once you identify that you're there, what do you do? What are effective ways that you can come back from it?
Yeah, burnout's tough because when we're in it or we're approaching it, we don't even notice it, right? It's like we're kind of get this tunnel vision going
Uh-huh.
on,
Uh-huh.
and we just all we see is what we're working on. And we almost get in this mode of, well, once I finish X, Y, Z, I'm Canadian, I say Z. So
Yeah.
once I finish X, Y, Z, then I'll relax. But we don't realize how hard we're pushing ourselves. We don't realize we're starting to not sleep well, or maybe stop exercising because we don't have time, or we're getting
Yeah.
distant from our family or our friends. So people around us may notice we're slipping into burnout, but usually the people who are in it are the last to know. It's kind of this interesting effect.
Yeah.
So to catch yourself is hopefully someone around you mentions something to you, or you just notice that you're not yourself. You're exhausted all the time. You're waking up exhausted. You're not enjoying yourself anymore. Those are usually indicators on the personal level. And then what I say, because I have worked with clients who've been in that state, is when you realize you're there, it starts out with basics, getting back to basics. So prioritizing sleep, getting a really great full night's sleep. And that doesn't have to be 8 hours, by the way. Like the people that I work with, they never get 8 hours. And then they feel bad and guilty that they're not getting a full night's sleep. And so then that kind of compounds the
Snowball.
problem.
Yeah.
But it's really about the neuroscience of sleep cycles. So trying to get a full night's rest based on sleep cycles, so 6 hours or 7.5 hours. That's a whole other conversation. But waking up rested and then in the morning taking time for you. So maybe not super hard physical exercise, more gentle exercise,
Hmm.
but also doing some mental training. So we always prioritize physical health, but we rarely prioritize proactive mental health. And so for me, that's taking 5 minutes every morning to just sit, not doing anything.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be meditation. If you like meditation, that's great. I'm a meditation teacher who doesn't meditate anymore, and I don't teach meditation anymore because I don't think it's needed.
Hmm.
To me, it's more about understanding how the mind works. And when you understand how the mind works, you see why meditation works, but also why you don't need to use it. You can do other things.
Hmm.
And again, that's another conversation I'm happy to get into, whatever direction you want to go, but it's learning how to quiet your own mind
Yeah.
and access your own calm center.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. I was, I think for me, when I was in that state, I think I realized it because I work out every day, and so I realized it when I was getting hurt repeatedly. at the gym.
Mm.
It's just like first my arm, then my back, then this and that. I'm just like, man. And then at work, I just wasn't finishing things. It was just like I was getting things started. And like you said, I couldn't really get into that flow state. I was just like, man, this is crazy. But for me, what I ended up doing is I did start, just meditating. I would start, before I get to start working, take like 10 minutes, at lunchtime, take 10 minutes or after work, just really calm down. And I think I started journal. Oh, I started writing a book. That's right.
Mm, nice.
But it's a book like in the format of like a journal. So I'm just taking like journal entries and putting them into a book. And it's been interesting. But I don't feel, I don't feel that stress. I feel like I'm being productive, but it's not like it's hard work. And then when I need to sit down and buckle down and do hard work, I can get into my flow state and I can make stuff happen. You were saying that there are other techniques that you use to help people besides meditate. Besides meditation, I mean, what are some of those?
Yeah. So, as I said, it's a new way of looking at how the mind really works.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's starting to recognize that you are not your thoughts. You're the observer of your thoughts. You're the thinker of your thoughts.
Explain.
Um,
that sounds that sounds philosophical.
it is philosophical. And as the thinker of our thoughts, 50,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day, right? That's when we take our power back, because that's when we realize we get to choose which thoughts we entertain,
Hmm.
which thoughts we want to follow, which thoughts we want to action. Because not every thought that you think is true, and not every thought that you think needs to be actioned. Really, most of our thoughts are habits.
Hmm.
And as entrepreneurs, we are driven and we are working all the time, and it's this never ending to-do list, especially throw in the high achiever on top of that, right? It's just, you're never done.
Yes.
Set goals, achieve, keep going. Set goals, achieve, keep going. And so it's about starting to notice, okay, so there are some habits of thought there that I've never done. Or for me, I realize I'm never enough, never getting there, never done.
Hmm.
Those are habits of thinking. And so the more that I take breaks in my day, and I love that you're journaling or sitting and meditating, because those are ways to do it as well, to separate yourself from your thinking. And when you separate yourself from your thinking, you enter the present moment.
Okay.
Our thinking is always about the future, right? Or the past, or what we're working on, or other
Oh,
people.
yeah.
But when we put all that down for a few moments, where we're left is the present moment. And when we have a quiet mind in the present moment, that's the space of peace, contentment, creativity, and a new way of thinking, of using our mind, where we come up with innovative solutions to any problems that we're working on. And so have you ever had the experience where you've got this big problem you're trying to sort through, and so many of us, we encounter a problem, we do more thinking about it. So we're just thinking, 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 and we're up in the night thinking, and it's this rabbit hole
Hmm.
of thinking. And then you jump in the shower or you drive your car and you have this light bulb moment of, oh, of course, that's what I need to do, right? Has that happened to you before?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Waking up in the middle of the night, it's like, aha, I've got it. Yes.
There it is. Right. So it's the idea. And again, this can be explained both from the philosophy side or from the neuroscience side. But it's the idea that we put down our thinking mind for a while, our habitual thinking,
Hmm.
just kind of focusing on the problem,
Hmm.
analyzing. We put
Hmm.
that down and we create space in the brain for a new solution to come through. The philosophy side of things would say that solution comes through the present moment when we access this other space, this grounded calm center space. The neuroscience side would say that we activate our default mode network in our brain, activating different areas that create space for new innovative thinking to come through. But it's the idea that when we put down our habitual thinking and ruminating and analyzing, we create space for those light bulb moments to come through. But it brings this whole host of other things. Like I said, peace of mind, creativity, calm, groundedness, and an enjoyment of life for exactly where we're at right now. Even though we haven't accomplished everything we're going to do and we're going to keep going, right now it's this peace that we've done what we've done so far.
What I'm envisioning is like, we have this problem, and like you said, we've got the habitual thoughts. It's like, what's going to be for dinner, and blah 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 blah, blah. Right? And somehow what's coming to me is the idea of just kind of like stepping back from whatever that is, observing the problem, and then kind of engineering a solution. Is that along the lines of what you're thinking, or what you're sharing?
Sort of, yeah. So it's putting down the thinking. It's almost putting it on a shelf, a
Uh huh.
mental shelf, for a while. And it's being okay with not knowing the answer right now. That's a huge one. Just saying to yourself, I don't know right now what I'm going to do. And that stops the cyclical thinking of the analyzer
Mm-hmm.
in the brain here. Just saying, I don't know right now. I will know. Right now, I don't know. And that quiets down the thinking. And then you don't know when it's going to come, if it'll be 5 minutes or an hour. But, eventually that light bulb moment, you'll go, oh, right. And it'll come through.
Right. Right. So it's just quieting yourself. I like that. Somebody
And
was
stepping away.
somebody was saying today and yesterday, interesting, it was it's a lot of times we already have the answers within us, and it's a matter of just remembering what that solution was. Are you of
And
that?
quieting down thinking to hear it too, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Interesting. How do you get people from that space? I mean, it's I get there, you get there. It's just like, oh, go. What are the next three things? How do you get from that space to really being able to calm it down and being very present and being, letting, really shedding some of that stress about the things that you can't control anyway? How do you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, what I do to help people get there is I have a framework with 3 tiers. So the first is physiological health. So helping them with sleep, really, and morning routines so that they wake up feeling rested and they have better mental clarity.
Uh-huh.
From there, I help with mental training, learning how the mind really works, as we've been discussing. And then the third piece is the social piece. So triggering situations, relationships, communication, listening, bringing this new understanding to those areas of your life. And so with that framework, it seems to work really well. And then it's also getting more familiar with the space of having a quiet mind, the space, which is the present moment,
Yeah.
which comes through on a really nice feeling. So it's this kind of grounded feeling, settled, peaceful feeling. And that's how you know when you're there. We're in our thinking so often that we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Neuroscience estimates we're in the present moment 5% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I can catch myself in my thoughts and I don't even know I'm doing it. And I'm staring at the wall, just thinking about stuff. I go, oh my goodness, how long have I been doing this? I snap out of it. So it's catching yourself and bringing yourself back with a myriad of ways of bringing yourself back. Sometimes it's just sinking into the feeling, but also getting more familiar with what the feeling is. So it becomes this new baseline state, like the present moment becomes this new baseline state from which to live from versus a place to get to, right? So many of us are working so hard to get to that success and enjoyment of life as this future goal, but it's flipping it on its head. So we experience that in the here and now. We live from there versus trying to get there because the
Yeah.
goalpost just keeps moving. I don't know if you noticed that. We never get there. It's the weirdest thing.
I don't know. I don't get it.
Why does it keep moving? Where does it go?
One thing that I do a lot, I find when I'm having a really hard time focusing, is I just put music on. And music tends to stop my thoughts from racing. My housemate makes fun. It's just like, do you have one of those problems? Do you need to wear headphones all the time? But it's true because I find that I can quiet my thoughts and I can focus on one thing and move it through like the various stages. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? Is that typical? What is you shook your head when I
Yeah.
said a bad thing. I'm scared now.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. So it's about finding the activities where we give ourselves permission to quiet our mind. And I love music too. I use music for that. And it seems like it's the music, but the music is prompting us to quiet our own mind.
Yeah.
So some people like to watch sports, right? Turn on the game that helps them quiet down. Go for a walk, exercise. Some people being creative, cooking, something like that.
Mhm.
It's any activity where you give yourself permission to put your thinking down for a while. And music is great because you focus on the music, you focus on the words, whatever that might be, and it just starts to shelf that habitual, incessant thinking that we all have.
Okay, so I'm not off the boat. Excellent.
It's a form of meditation. That's essentially what meditation is, right? Is quieting your mind. So that's why I don't meditate anymore because I see that there's all these other ways to do it.
Uh-huh.
Listening to music, going for a walk, going on a bike ride. Yeah, but then it's the underlying understanding of what's actually happening. What are the mechanics, right? Why does listening to music work for you?
Yeah.
Well, you're giving yourself permission to put that thinking down.
We seem to put a lot of pressure on ourselves.
Oh, yes. I'm bad for that personally.
So it's interesting. I mean, you said a while ago you were talking about the flight or the fight or flight instincts, and I was having a conversation with someone. I don't remember who it was, but we were talking about the idea that these habits or these programs that we have running in our mind, they are the result of, fight or flight. So if we're a really driven person, it comes from a place in our history, where we had to, compete for grades or, whatever that was when we were growing up. Is that an accurate statement, or is that something, or is it more just something that we're born with?
I could be. I don't know the science behind it, so I don't want to say yes or no, but I know there's lots of theories from evolutionary psychology about why we are the way we are. That could be one. I've heard others that we're prone to think negative versus positive because of cavemen again. If a caveman was walking on down a path and he missed a saber-toothed tiger hiding in a bush, you can imagine that would be a bad, a negative consequence. Versus that same caveman walking down a path missed some berries on a bush. That's a positive consequence that was missed, right? So the theory is over time, our brains were wired to look for the negative for survival
Right.
purposes
Right.
versus looking for the positive. So I do find it helpful to hear some of these theories about why we are the way we are. It's kind of comforting, right? It's like, oh, that's why I look for the worst case scenario. And that's why I judge people and see all the negative things happening and blah, blah, blah. So once you see your habits, okay, maybe it is from cavemen or who knows, maybe not. Either way, it's a habit. And once you see it, once you have awareness of it, next time you notice it, you can ask yourself, well, do I really want to pay attention to that thought, right? Like that thought where I'm thinking about the worst case scenario for my business. Wait a sec, that's a habit. That's a thought.
Yeah.
If we bring it back to the mindfulness conversation, I'm realizing I'm having a thought about my business in the worst case scenario. Is that true? Or is that just my mind imagining scary futures?
Yeah.
And if it's just imagining scary futures, is it useful? Not really, unless you're doing some kind of contingency planning. But if you're just sitting there stewing and freaking yourself out, you can go, oh, I don't need to think about that. I'm just scaring myself. I'm going to let that thought go because I don't need to think about that.
Mm. How do you come back? So, I mean, in that scenario, I mean, you're in a heightened emotional state. You know what I'm saying? You're anxious or you're crying or,
Yes.
whatever that is. And, you're going through this process. I mean, I always ask the question, how do you come back from that? Because, in that reality, it's just like, okay, I can't, I can't work, or I can't, I can't focus, on whatever it is. I mean, how do you really get recentered or get grounded, with your emotions after you kind of started talking yourself off the ledge?
Yeah, great question. I think something all business owners have faced. I know I have. Well, the first part is knowing that we're always feeling our thinking. It seems like what we're feeling, what we're experiencing is happening from the world around us, like a annoying client or who knows, politics, whatever that might be. I mean, let me give you an example. This past weekend, my daughter was at a competitive swim meet. She's starting to do competitive swimming. And in between swim races, I look at the news and I go, oh my goodness, the US is, bombing Iran. Holy smokes, that's not good. Start to have a little inner freak out, right? And then I go watch my daughter do her swim race and I'm cheering her on. And it's like one of the best moments of my life, seeing her swim and just be so happy.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that that situation that was happening overseas had changed or gone away.
Right.
It was just where my focus was, where my thoughts were. And it can flip from terror for the future to pride and joy for my daughter in an instant, depending what I'm thinking about. And so we're always feeling our thinking. We're not necessarily feeling the world around us. We're feeling what we're thinking about the world around us. And so when we're having, to go back to your question, a meltdown about imagining worst case scenario for our business or having one of those dread type days, it's realizing, okay, I'm feeling my thinking because that's the only way it works. So I'm having scary thoughts. Now, is this helping me, right? Is this useful or am I just scaring myself? Okay, I'm scaring myself. So then it's really about removing for me, if I'm sitting at my desk doing that, I need to get up, I go for a run, I go for a walk, I do something to disrupt the thinking to get myself out of it. And if it's if there is a problem that I'm trying to solve or work on in my business,
Yeah.
I know that being in that state of dread, anxiousness, worry, and trying to look at the problem is my low level type of thinking. It's not my best quality of thinking. And so if I shelf it and then I go for a run, go for a walk, clear my head, then I come up to my higher quality level of thinking. And then I revisit the problem I'm working on.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, from a clear head, now what do I want to do about this? And I come up with completely different answers versus staying in that level of dread and fear. And not much good comes out of being down there. So when you catch yourself there, again, it's that tap on the shoulder. It's like, oh, I'm not in my best self right now. I'm just stewing. I need to go pull myself out or listen to music and change gears here to do anything productive.
Wow, wow. These you've I think you've given us what, three or four like really great frameworks. I mean, things that you could almost use like today. It's just like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
I'm crashing out. I need to go play basketball. Um,
Yeah, basketball. That's another good one.
that's what
It's
I do.
basically whatever feeling state you're in is letting you know the type of thinking you're having. It's so counterintuitive than what we grew up thinking. So
Yeah,
if you're feeling frustrated, stressed, anxious, it's letting you know you're not having your best thoughts.
yeah,
If you're feeling creative, insightful, inspired, in the flow, okay, great. I'm in a really great place to do some great work right now. So if you're in that low state, then take a break, do something to pull yourself out. And sometimes, we can't pull ourselves out instantly. Then we got to take a day off or slow down a little bit, get ourselves back on track.
yeah, yeah. That part. I mean, we've been so ingrained with the idea that we have to be at work 8 hours a day, and it's got to be solid, and and
Grind
that
it out.
these are other great conversations I'm having with folks that are saying, hey, you know what, if this is happening, then I might start work at 10, or whatever it is. I'm having a great day, blah blah blah, and it's so true. I've really been intentional, I think, in the past couple of years about honoring myself. It's just like, you know what, I need a nap at 3. I'm old, I just can't keep my eyes open anymore. And it's and I don't feel guilty about it, because when I get up, I can be very productive versus I hate waking up and seeing like lines of like the letter I just going across the computer. What was it?
Yeah.
What was it? What was a great turnaround story for you? Somebody that was, came to you, was just, really upset about perhaps their productivity, or, it's like, I've got this vision, I can't get there, or, whatever it was, to, becoming that person that's, that's mindful, that is able to, really process their emotions and their thoughts and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, I have so many. I have so many. If anyone's interested in reading my testimonials, check out my website, tracygazel.com. I love my clients. Worked with clients in all kinds of different industries, from healthcare to electronics manufacturing to the Department of Energy and nuclear physics, to all over.
Uh-huh.
But one story that came to mind first was one client who had a military background and then became an executive in a healthcare in a hospital. And he was quite a gruff guy, and he came to me because he was getting all of this feedback from his peers that he was a bulldog leadership style,
Mm-hmm.
aggressive. Some of them were kind of scared of him,
Mm-hmm.
and he was just very intense, but he described it as very passionate. And he had goals to become a CEO one day, but he knew that he needed to work on this area of himself in
Yeah.
order to progress to the CEO role. And so we started working together, and I mean, he was just he would get fired up very easily, he'd get triggered very
Mm-hmm.
easily. And he started to see that he could choose his reactions. He started to see that he could choose which thoughts to listen to. And just because he has habits of thought where he gets really frustrated
Mm-hmm.
with other people not moving at his speed, um, he didn't have to follow those thoughts or listen to them. And now, today, he's about to be interviewed for the CEO role. That's been his dream.
Yay.
He's getting all this feedback from his peers where they're saying, what's going on with you lately? You're the last person to speak in the room. You're so quiet. You're listening to everybody. He's prioritizing culture and ensuring all the staff are being mentored and trained. And it's just this complete flip. And he's happy, and he's
And
improving
he's
his
happy.
relationships with his wife and his daughter. And it's just wonderful to see. And it's this change impacts every area of life, work and home.
Yeah.
So it's very cool. I love it.
That is very cool. I had mentioned, about the hustle culture and the guilt around, taking the breaks and that sort of thing. How do people? I know I went through it, and I would never say that I do things in the most healthiest ways. I'm just kidding. But how do people in general, or how do you coach people on how to get past that? You know,
Mhm.
it's like there's this cycle of oh, hey, I'm not performing well, blah blah blah, I can't do this. And you know, how do you talk people, how do you help people identify that and then get through or get past that thinking?
Great question, because it's first something I had with myself that I had to work with many mentors about, especially
Oh,
starting
wow.
a business, because it just never stops and you're responsible for so many things. And I would try to turn it off at the end of the day, but all I would do is think about it and think what I hadn't done yet and feel guilty for taking time away, as you said. And now I work with founders who are struggling with that. And so the first place that I go is helping them see that when you're feeling guilty for taking time away, that in itself is a thought and it's a habit. So, those of us that are these driven high performers, high achievers, I believe we're successful because of that drive. And because of that almost inability to slow down or take a break. However, that habit starts to become a detriment at some point. We get older, we get tired, we have a family or whatever it might be. You want to start spending some time away. And so it's recognizing that just when you take time away and you have that thought, oh, I can't, I shouldn't take this break for myself,
Mhm.
or what's going to happen to my work or whatever, that in itself is a habit of thought. So that's an example of, you have a thought and you ask yourself, is that true? The work never ends. That's business.
Mhm.
We never, ever, ever get to the bottom of our list. Otherwise, there'd be no work to do and we'd have to close our business. So it's normal to never get to the end.
Mhm.
And plus, when we take a break, it's starting to recognize that that's how we perform at a high level, is by taking
Yeah.
breaks. And that's how our brains operate efficiently as well, is by taking breaks. Our brains aren't designed to run at high performance, 110% every day. It needs breaks, it needs oxygen, it needs water, so that we can be our cognitive best as well.
Yeah.
So it's just starting to recognize habits of pushing yourself and feeling guilty, choosing to not listen to that thought and give yourself permission to take time away, and know that it will positively impact your performance if you do.
So what are the long-term, I guess, detriments to people that choose not to, choose to just, continue to drive, what happens to them?
Well, I get sometimes on Zoom with some of them, and honestly, it's men who are on the verge of retirement often. And I say men because I work with mostly men, some women,
Mhm.
but mostly men. But the men, they get on Zoom and honestly, they just start crying. And I meet them and they start crying. They say, I don't know my kids. They're about to leave for college. And I feel like I've missed all this time with them. I didn't take the chance to even build relationships with them. They're about to leave. Their
Yeah.
wives are about to divorce them. It's just, um, but they've been building everything and working so hard for their family. And so they're really shocked when they come up for air and everyone's getting ready to leave. It's quite sad, actually. So that's the social piece. And then, of course, there's the physical and mental piece where it really does take a toll over time. And it seems so many people are prioritizing retirement or selling their business,
Mhm.
getting to that end goal stage of life so I can slow down and relax then and enjoy life then.
Yeah.
But really, it's about looking at how you can do that now, how you can be present with your family now and have those loving relationships now, while also achieving your dreams and your goals. None of us are guaranteed to even make it to our retirement, right? Back to my early story. Like, what if we don't even make it there? Let's make the most of our life right here and now,
Yeah.
because we don't need to, we can be driven, yet still enjoy life.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, I think there's an argument to say that, for some people that drive, is that exciting thing, just getting up.
Hmm.
We had a guy,
Yeah, me too.
a few weeks ago. I think he's 70 or pushing 70 or something like that. And he's just like, yeah, I've already sold my business. I moved out of the country, blah, blah, blah. And I'm getting ready to start another business because that's what I love to do. And just like, there's something to that.
Yeah. I'd say it's where's that drive coming from? Because me too. I love sharing this with anyone who will listen. I can't wait to get it in front of more people.
Mhm.
I want to write all these books. Like, that's my drive. That's my inspiration.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, what's the feeling associated with the drive?
Huh.
Is it this space of inspiration and passion, or is it this more pressure? Like, I'm never there, like I'm working, like I'm grinding it out. I'm putting my head down and grinding it out, because those are two very different experiences of the drive.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I know for me, I think about it from, kind of like a purpose perspective. It's just like, hey, I want
Mhm.
to, like you said, I want to make an impact. I want to, change people's lives. Um, and so I don't think about, I don't think about retirement. I think about, okay, what can I do next? How long can I, keep doing the things that I need to do to fulfill my purpose? Cool. Did you want to talk about your book?
Well, sure. Yeah, so I'm working on a book. It's in the works. No future date to share yet, but it is coming out soon. Um, I also have a free audio clip that's called Unlock Focus, Calm, and Clarity that's available for all the listeners. And I'm also starting up a new free monthly webinar as
Oh,
well,
cool.
called the Focus Lab. So anyone watching this, add me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn, and then I'm hosting the event through there. Just as a free drop in, come as you are and leave clearer. That's what I'm calling it, and helping everyone with focus. So, yeah, out there in all kinds of different ways. I'm also a speaker too. So happy to come and speak to groups as well about all of this.
Fantastic, fantastic. And what we'll do is we'll put that in your show notes. So anybody that's looking for you to check out the episode, they will see those links at the bottom, and wherever they watch it. So that'll work for you. Is there anything you want to leave our audience with before we call it a day?
Well, I've said a lot.
I gave away
And
all my good
I just am,
stuff.
yeah, no, just to help people realize that, and all the listeners, that you have a choice. It seems like life is happening to us, right? I used to feel like this leaf being tossed around in the wind, getting stressed out, or what was happening in the world, politics or economy. I had no choice in the experience of my life, but we do. We get to choose how we think about things. We get to choose then how we feel about things. We get to choose what we do when we wake up in the morning, our state of mind. And when we do that, when we make a conscious choice, that's when everything shifts and changes for us, business, family, life. That's when we get to live our dream life. And it starts with us, not with whatever's going on in the world. We can be that eye in the hurricane. We can be whatever we want in the midst of all the stuff that's going on these days.
That I love that. We need to put that into like a little 8x10 frame, just put it on the wall. It's just like you choose. I love it. I love it. Cool. But Tracey, thank you so much for being on the show. I've learned a lot. I really enjoy these types of conversations. I know folks, struggle with stress and trying to come back and burnout and all that good stuff. So I know that folks are really, 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 really going to benefit from the show. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for having me. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely. Folks, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. We will catch you next time.